Hello, and welcome to episode 56 of Friends of the Show. I am Stephen W. Skinner, and this is a podcast where I get to talk to some of the funniest people on Twitter. And this week's friend is a very nice and funny TV writer, Allie Garfinkel, at Alligarchy on Twitter. We talk about how she locked down that cool handle, what it's like working in the world of television, and also working as a video game tester. And we talk about how she produced a podcast starring some very fine actors indeed. And while we're at it, she answers some questions submitted by some of our finest listeners, like you. So I hope you, our finest listener, enjoy Friends of the Show, episode 56, with at Alligarchy. Like music?
Yeah.
Some music. I was just looking because it says Long Island on your Skype name. And this is Long Island Anthem.
Long Island.
Original song by this guy on YouTube.
Wait, is it like the official anthem? Do we have a theme song for Long Island?
No, I think this is it. I think this is like it's like a fan song.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Inspired
so it's not
by. It's kind of nice. It's the video is just a bunch of pictures of what I'm assuming is Long Island. It was like saying some of them have like the names of the spot, but not all of them. A lot of it's just beaches, which is very nice.
I mean, we are technically just one big beach, so.
So it is a Long Island.
It is a Long Island. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I love that accent.
Yeah, everyone tells me I sound like their mother.
Yeah, you sound like you're on The Sopranos or something.
Sopranos. Wrong side of the spectrum. I'm skewing more towards Seinfeld. You know, it's more Jewish than Italian.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, the levels sound great. So, basically, Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This is the show. I used to play the theme song. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Podcast.
Nice. Okay, that's a jam. That's a little bit of a jam.
A little bit of a jam. Shout out to Kylie Davidson. Thank you for the theme. And welcome to our guest. Thanks for joining me, Allie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, for the listeners, Allie is a great, very funny and nice TV writer living in L.A. From Long Island. And,
hell yeah.
Yeah, repping on Twitter at Alligarchy, which is a great handle, first of all. Like, you should just tell right away how clever this person is. That's a great handle.
Thank you so much.
Were you very happy when you thought of that handle and it was available?
I was. I had something else that I was using for a while that I was like, oh, this is going to be my thing. And then I think I just like sat up in bed one night and was like, something better. and just immediately changed all my stuff to it because I was like, that's it. Even I started an LLC and it's also the name of my LLC.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm Brandon, baby.
That's full. Yeah, you're all in. Wow, that's a great, great branding, right? You got to secure all the channels. You got to lock it down on all the domains, all the mediums. And whenever a new one pops up, you got to get it on that just in case.
Yeah, just in case some weirdo wants to make into sex stuff. Yeah,
what were some of the failed ones that have recently come up? Ello, that tried to be a thing very recently.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, so there's those new ones that pop up here and there, and you don't know if you have to get.
What was the other thing? It was like anonymous Twitter. I think it was green or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Everyone, it was all anonymous and supposed to be ad free or decentralized. Elephant or something. I don't know. I don't remember what that one was. I never joined either of those ones because I know I only joined the big boys.
Yeah, we won't betray our Lord and Savior like that.
Yeah, the hell site that we are slaves to.
Talking about Twitter, that's my main one. That's my main boo. It'll never
Daddy.
stray. Yeah, give me that microblog. I only want snippets. Nothing deep. Nothing too deep.
Nope. I just want to skim the surface of civilization.
So what was your original OG Twitter handle?
It used to be, so there's I don't know if it was like widespread, the comic strip, do you remember Hagar the Horrible?
Oh yeah, Viking guy.
Yeah, okay, so I thought it was maybe just like a Long Island Newsday thing. I don't know. I don't know the widespreadness, and I'm sorry if that offends that I didn't know. But I had Agar the Terrible was my original name.
Oh, Agar, because
yeah,
Gar.
Yeah, first name A, last name Gar.
A lot of great options there with those, with that Gar, Ali, Gar, you know.
Right? Yeah. Except I only use like the same two names for years.
Still good. You locked it down.
Yeah.
So, what were you on in the? You're probably old enough to remember the olden days internet. What were you doing on the olden times internet? Did you ever get on to MSN?
Man.
Were you on ICQ? Were you ever visiting MySpace? Did you ever check in on Foursquare? Did you invest in Pets.com?
I logged into AOL,
AOL.
just like everyone else.
AOL AIM.
Well, before, I mean, AIM was like the bonus feature that came after everyone realized that people on AOL just wanted to talk to each other. So then they did the AIM thing. But AOL, like I used to, when I would sign on, I used to go to, there were these chat rooms that were just like word games, and someone would set up this thing where it would be a word you would have to unscramble, and then everyone in the chat room would have to unscramble it first, and you would get points. And it was like the old school, like there weren't even any flash games that did yet. It was just a person with like a bot who would just submit words for everyone else in the chat room. And the chat rooms, I don't know. I mean, I'm saying the word chat rooms, and I feel like people are just like, what is that?
Message boards, yeah.
Yeah, we're a room where you could talk to people live for some reason. And they only allowed like 40 people at a time back in the day. Like there was a limit to how many people could be talking online at once.
And there was always an administrator or a moderator.
Yep, yeah, and you would get booted from the room if you were bad. But so these chat rooms would fill up, and I used to leave a stapler on the enter key of my keyboard, so it would automatically keep trying to log me in. So if someone got kicked out or left, I would be entered into the chat room immediately.
Hacker.
And that's how I got in.
Real hacker level stuff.
Yeah, I think it's like the equivalent of people who used to wait outside theater doors like after the first act just so they could sneak in for the second act. Like that's always what it felt like. That was my version of it as a 10-year-old.
That old move of sneaking in with the smoke crowd.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, old-timey message boards. And it was always it's for something super niche. It was like, like Reddit has like r/whatever. Those message boards would be about a certain thing too. It would always be like about a band or something that it was a bunch of fans conglomerating about.
How long has Reddit been around for?
That's a great question. I don't actually know. I'm not big on to Reddit.
Yeah, me neither.
But that's a great question. Probably not too old, right?
I feel like it's right. It's relevant.
2005.
2005. Oh my God.
2005.
15 years?
So yeah,
14 years?
Pretty old.
Crap.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, old-timey message boards are very similar to the Reddit of today, but with a few differences. People didn't know how to use the internet. It was a lot of there was GIFs. There was a lot of like slow loading images that loaded bar by bar.
Yeah. I remember trying to make like the Angel Fire homepage, and all those little images just took up so much space, and you would like run out of room on your web page, which can't even happen now, but it did then. My God, I feel like I'm 100.
Yeah, and thinking about the old internet is it makes you feel very, very old.
Oh my God.
And why did everything have to spin? All of the little icons, everything was just spinning.
Everything spun, everything was sparkly, everything was just,
I remember I was so happy when I like coded my first page and I got the counter to work. And then when like some random people had visited the page, I was like, people visited. People saw my HTML code or page that had nothing on it. Yeah. Just like had some text that I wrote. Like, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old-timey internet. So those are fun old days. But what are you doing on the internet today? What are your top websites? Twitter, I'm sure, is something
Twitter's
you open
my
a
number
lot?
one favorite. It's the best. So I recently got into, I've been using the Citizen app, and I made the mistake of downloading it. I shouldn't have downloaded it. Now I can't delete it because, so do you know the Nextdoor app where the people in the community post about everything that's going on?
Okay, I know about it.
So there's different menus, and you can, people who are selling furniture or people who are asking questions about the neighborhood, and then there's also crime and safety where people will post like people who have been stealing packages or any crime that's happened. And someone kept asking about the helicopters, so someone on the Nextdoor app was like, check the Citizen app, and I was like, what is that? So I downloaded it, and it's like real-time crime just sent to your phone, just blocks radius around you. And I was already kind of afraid to leave my apartment just because of the world in general. But this, oh man, there was one that was like literally coming from inside the house. Like I got an update that an assault happened and it listed my address, and like the little map thing was like pinpointed on my building. And I just sat up in bed and I was like, oh my God, I need to delete this.
Whoa, holy shit.
I need to get rid of it.
I thought following like the Toronto Police Services was bad. It's like that version for me. You're like, oh wow, that's there's a lot of stuff going on that I never really knew.
And people like post things from police scanners, like people, and then you can record stuff if you happen to be there. And I can't stop looking at it, and it's insane. And I feel bad because some of this stuff sounds truly horrific, but oof, drama.
Drama. Yeah, a lot of bad stuff going on. All right.
Drama.
I'm pretty lucky. I've never been involved in crime. Have you ever been criminalized, assaulted?
I have been followed home and threatened to be killed by a woman in my neighborhood. I was extorted by a drifter who had found his way into our building.
Okay, I like this one. All right, tell us more about the drifter.
The drifter. Okay, so he was this crazy guy where he had taken advantage of an old man in the first floor of my building. And he like convinced the old man that he was his spiritual father or something like that.
Classic.
So then, when the police came and they were like, you can't just move in with this old man. The old man was like, no, he's my dad and I love him and all this stuff. And it turns out it's a lot harder to kick people out of a building than other people think it is.
Right.
And so he just stayed, and the apartment number that they were in was apartment number 3. And the parking space that I had at the time was number 3, but it wasn't because it was supposed to go with the building. The spaces were just numbered as they were. So this guy who didn't know anything about our building was convinced that I was just using their parking space and then tried to get me to pay him for it, but like didn't want me to talk to the manager about it and like told me not to deal with them and that they were stealing from people. And this whole thing happened. And it was one of those things where someone just comes in like late to the game and tries to pull one over on you, but you've been through other shit already and you already know that it's bullshit, and you're just like, I'm gonna have you save your breath. Like, this isn't gonna work on me. Like, I'm never gonna pay you for my own parking space.
Yeah, that's the best.
It's not gonna happen. But then he started like following me around the building, and then he came up to the 3rd floor, which he had no business being on because he was on the 1st floor living with that guy. But he like followed me up to the 3rd floor, like. And it was an intimidation thing. Like, he just wanted me to see that he knew where I lived.
That's not
so,
very nice.
that stuff happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does happen. And unfortunately, that is bad. But luckily, nothing happened this time.
Yeah,
so.
no, I've been left alone for a little bit, and it's been kind of nice. Although the woman who threatened to kill me was only a few months ago.
Okay.
But, shit happens.
I guess. All right. But you think you could probably take her, though? 1v1? I
could not have. And the police were called. Yeah, but and I could tell that this person was not in their right mind, but at the same time, it's like she wouldn't let me out of my car because she told me she was going to kill me. And so at a certain point, it's like, well, I've reached the end of how far I can take this on my own.
Yeah. If you can't call the police about that, I don't know.
Yeah. That feels legit to me.
Well, I'm glad you escaped that harrowing experience also.
I love LA. It's so full of fervor.
Fervor, that's one word for it. And I guess you got to like drive everywhere too.
Oh my God. Well, I don't drive nearly as much as people expect me to. I've had my car for I think like a year now, and I only have like 2,000 miles on it.
All right, keeping it close to home.
Well, because everything is 10. Everywhere I go in LA is 10 miles away. You know, it's like I don't really go, and if I do go places, most of the time I Uber, so my car doesn't really get a lot of use out of it. But I need it. You know, no one cannot have a car in LA, unfortunately. They're trying to make it so no one wants to use their cars. Like they're just making parking harder. So I think they're hoping that people will just abandon their vehicles, but
they're not
it's
making
not gonna
public transportation easier. They're making the parking harder.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I had no, not like trouble driving in LA, but I would, you know, when you get stuck in the traffic, you're like, oh, it's like this all the time. Like,
No, we just live like this. Even 10 o'clock at night on a freeway, and I'm still in bumper to bumper traffic, and it's like, what did we do? How did this happen? How did we get here? How are there not enough lanes across to help this?
Mm-hmm, yeah, the slowing on the freeway. This? Yeah. How can we do better? We need flying cars. What do we need?
Oh, God help us.
Have you seen those flying cars? They got them now.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they're like little drones. So they have like 8 or 9 like propellers that go all the way around. And you can sit in the middle and you go like, ooh, flying little car.
I hope they all run me over.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be the next thing. Here we go.
Mm.
What's the craziest piece of technology that you have? You have a smart home?
Oh no, I don't have a smart home. Craziest, I guess. I mean, I have a PlayStation VR, like the virtual reality headset. It's not. I wouldn't say it's crazy because there's so many other VR things that are so much more impressive and better than what I have. But I guess in terms of like level of technology,
like advanced,
it might be the most sophisticated thing I own.
Maybe, probably.
Yeah.
What's your favorite VR game?
Oh my.
Or what do you use it for?
Well, I don't have a favorite game. It's like the games aren't. The games aren't like nearly as sophisticated as they're going to be yet. So everything is a little bit choppy, and it's hard to be like, I love this game. But there's a game that I played. I stopped for a little bit, but it's called Transference, and I think it's like Elijah Wood's company made this VR horror game.
Yeah.
And I started playing it, and I scare relatively easily, so it made me a little jumpy. But it also makes me really motion sick. So it's like this where the game makes me sick, but I can't stop playing it. But then I have to, and then I'll stop playing for like weeks because I just remember how nauseated I got playing, and then everything stopped. So I don't even remember what I got up to in that game, but it was pretty good from what I remember.
Well, shout out to Elijah Wood. He loves horror.
Yeah, shout out to my boy Elijah.
That's pretty cool. I've never entered into the VR realm. I've never immersed myself in a virtual world. But my cousin has the Oculus thing, I think.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Like runs off a computer and it's like legit. But I have never tried it. But I will one day venture into that world, and maybe I'll never come back.
Yeah, that's the dream. Really, that's the dream. Like that movie WALL-E, you know, where everyone's like in that like, to me, I don't know why they had to go back to Earth, man. I feel like they had it made.
Everything was fine.
Life. They had a good thing going.
Those chairs were money.
Yeah, and then Jeff Garlin had to go and ruin it all.
What do you mean, Jeff Garlin?
Jeff Garlin, man.
He's
right?
Great.
He was the voice of the.
He was the person, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's the person in that movie.
Yeah.
In the robot movie.
It was a good movie. Shout out to the Wally.
Yeah.
Great guy in space.
Shout out to the Wally heads out there.
So, speaking of video games, I was looking on your IMDb, and it says that you worked on video games. That's pretty cool.
I did. I worked, actually, where I met one of my very best friends. We worked together as video game testers for Square Enix. It was one of the first jobs that I got out here. It was back in like 2012 or 2011, I think. I had just finished up, or I was finishing up grad school, and I knew that my loans would be due shortly. So I was like, I should just get a job. And I randomly saw that a video game company was, or it was a recruiter. A recruiter was hiring for video game companies, and I was like, well, why not? I've been playing them since I'm 6 years old, and if anyone can do a job like that, it's me. And I got it, and I did it. And it was not great. It's not the dream that people think it is. It's still a job, and it's not the fun part of playing video games.
Yeah.
Like, if you could condense the feeling of like when you are playing a video game that you love and it suddenly freezes or crashes on you, like imagining that happening to you 50 times a day, because what you're playing is not a fully finished and rendered game. It's a piece of shit.
You're playing it because it's not ready, like to find out the problems.
It's crap that you have to scoop up, and it's like it's not fun. And it's punch clock. You know, you go in. The hours were okay. It's like 10 to 7, and it was the Square Enix building it's right by LAX. So the commute was shitty, but some of it was fun. Like I said, I met one of my best friends, and the culture is what you think it is, and I guess it's what you make of it. It wasn't a bad time. There are much worse.
A lot of dudes with beards, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of dudes with beards. A lot of pent up sexual aggression that manifests itself in rudeness. You know the types.
Yeah, I've heard just some stories, tangentially about people who've worked as video game testers, and it's kind of like that. Like people sitting in a huge like warehouse type environment, everyone's in like on like consoles, just like working away. Like it's not glamorous. Yeah,
and it's like they're just so nerdy and so horny and so mad. It's not a good combo.
Right? Yeah, they need to have spaces where they can go and chill.
Or just, work things out with their moms.
Work things out. So, video games sounds pretty cool. So, you got your stamp on some video games. What's your favorite one that you worked on?
Ooh, favorite one that I worked on. So, the games that I worked on, I did a rhythm game for the 3DS called Theater Rhythm, which was like, I don't know if you've heard of Final Fantasy, the very notable franchise. And they collected all their music, and they made like a Guitar Hero kind of game out of all the music from the franchise. And so that was the first game that I tested. And then I did Kingdom Hearts, the other 3DS installment, arguably the worst one. Not because of me, thank God, but just because not all games are winners.
So that Kingdom Hearts one, I kind of only have heard about that one recently, but it's like it just combines every like property or whatever. Like there's just you can be any character or whatever.
Yeah, it's an RPG using Disney and Nintendo and Square Enix characters,
right?
Essentially, it's a weird, and I forget. I guess there's like a whole story behind it, but some of them aren't true. But yeah, it's basically it's a lot of people's favorites, but the story's really complicated, and that was like the first Kingdom Hearts game I had ever played. It was the one that I tested, so I was just like, I don't know what's happening with this. I don't know why there's like 6 versions of the same character and everyone's named Nobody. Like, what's happening? So I did that one, and that was like okay. And then I tested Final Fantasy VII for when they were trying to release it on the PC. I don't know if you remember that. That was there was a whole thing where they were going to release Final Fantasy VII for the computer. And then Square Enix had these servers up where you would play it, you would log in and play online, but like it wouldn't be with other people. But then the servers didn't work or something, and my only job was just to make sure the game didn't crash, which it didn't, by the way. So I did my job, but then it got like really screwed up, and then people didn't get their money back, and then everyone was mad at Square Enix. So that was kind of the end of that.
Jeez, what a debacle! So it never got released on PC?
I think they did, and then they took it off, and they were like, never mind, we're just going to do this later and better, which they are doing. They're now releasing 7 again, and it's like HD and 1080p and whatever it is, like high resolution. They re-rendered the whole game, and I don't know, I saw the trailer for it, and I felt nothing, so I don't know. And I'm a big fan of the franchise, so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Now? Aren't they on... They're on like 10 or more. They've done a lot.
They're up to 16. So 15 was the last installment in the franchise that they made. But they've been like, they'll remake older ones once in a while. Like they remade 12. They remastered 10 and the sequel to 10, which was also terrible. And they. So now they're like remaking 7, and 7 was a lot of people's favorite. So people have been looking forward to this for, I think, like a decade. People have been looking forward to the game being remastered and redone for better technology and better systems. And they did it, but now people are mad about the voice acting and other things that I didn't bother reading because I didn't really care about it. So I was like, I don't really care what the internet opinion is on this because I don't care. So
it is wild. I never thought about like re-releasing. I mean, I know Hollywood does it all the time, right? Like now, everything gets rebooted, all the franchises. But I guess video games, why not do it too?
Well, because it's if you have the chance to, like, if you look at an old Nintendo 64 game and you have the chance to now see it in like 4K resolution with like beautiful graphics. I mean, hell yeah, right? Like, who would not want all of their favorite old video games to look like masterpieces all the time? Like, you want that cinematic quality in everything you play.
Yeah, I want GoldenEye 64, but HD version.
The HD version of the 64 graphics?
Yeah. No longer the blocky-headed Russian soldiers.
Oh, my God.
Or, like, the laser watch. Did you ever play that one?
Laser watch?
Yeah, there was a level at the very end where you had to escape, like you were locked in a train car and it was going to blow up, and you had your laser watch, and you could escape as long as you used your laser watch to laser off the hinges of the trapdoor.
The little nookie things around the thing, and you had to jump through, what was it, the floor of the train?
Yeah, you got to do it.
Oh my God, yeah, I lost that level a lot, I remember.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I remember when I beat it for the first time, I like jumped up and down, you know, so satisfying, right? That's what games used to be.
Back in my day, games were satisfying.
Yeah, love a good old video game. What was your first video game system? What's some of your classic video games?
So the reason I got into video games in the first place was because my mom was into them because of a friend of hers. And so my mom ended up buying the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, and she started playing The Legend of Zelda and Metroid and like the classic and Mario and, you know, all the old games. And then I would watch her do it all the time. And then eventually, like, when I could get my fingers to work the way they were supposed to as a 6-year-old, I started playing them as well. So the first 2 games that I played and fell in love with were Super Metroid and Zelda.
Side scroller and RPG.
Yeah. And they're like the super basic answers, but it's true. They're my favorite, and they're still my favorites.
And Samus is a woman. Take that, sure you nerds in the basement.
She sure is. Yeah, but she's a woman that doesn't talk, though, so
right.
Of course.
Uh-oh, it doesn't pass the Bechdel test. When I found that out, I was like, what? No, it's how? But it's a suit. Well, she's wearing a suit.
And it's like the better you play, the more naked she gets at the end. So that's sick.
If that ain't a reason to do it.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think that was the incentive, is that people were like, all right, if I can beat this game in under 3 hours, she's going to be in a bathing suit. And it's like, can you just imagine like those big, just beardy dudes just hunkered around their tiny screens trying to make out 8-bit boobs? Like, I just think about...
You know what? I can't imagine that because let me tell you, I had a video game that my dad got from a friend, and it was this like 1001 games in one on Nintendo, and it's like this huge list of games, and you just go and you pick it, and it was a lot of just like the same game over again, but had different skin on it, kind of thing. But they had this one game, and it was like strip, rock, paper, scissors. So it was like a woman who was clothed, and you were ostensibly playing rock, paper, scissors against a computer, and every time you won, she would like remove an article of clothing.
Wow.
And let me tell you, it was wild. At the end, the computer hand is going so fast between like rock, paper, and scissors that you have no chance. You're just getting lucky if you push it at the right moment. And then when we finally won, there was nothing underneath. There was no nipples. It was all smooth.
Oh no, like a Ken doll.
It was like a Ken doll. What a anticlimactic time of my youth. But pretty fun. Rock, paper, scissors. Strip, rock, paper, scissors. So
with no boobs. Strip, rock, paper, scissors, no boobs.
No payoff there. But you know what? The satisfaction was beating the computer at the rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, I'm sure that was it. You're just mad you didn't see titties.
Well, you know what? It was worth putting in the hours to try and beat the computer for rock, paper, scissors, because we thought we were going to see an animated breast, but we did not.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, what else have we got? What else are you doing with the internet these days? Trying to cover all these internet topics.
I mean, mostly just trying to avoid other people's reactions to TV. Like, I'm so tired of everyone complaining that TV doesn't meet their exact qualifications or specifications, and especially people who aren't in TV, like the people who raise money or try to raise money to remake shows when they're like, it didn't end the way I wanted, do it again. It's like, you do realize it's never going to happen.
That's so
like,
insane.
That's not how like the network doesn't give an F that you're not happy. Like the network's already made their money and they're continuing to make their money. They don't care that 1 million people were disappointed. Like they don't care.
Yeah, they famously don't care. Remember all the shows that have ended up being just a dream? Like, sorry, audience, who cares?
Yeah, like remember how many people were mad about The Sopranos? Remember how many people were pissed when they found out that Lost was being made up as they went along? Like once the thing is made, like they're not going to put the time and effort into doing it again. Also, these actors have like 1 million other contracts that are probably starting already. It's like they're not going to spend another year of their life making this effing show for you. Like they're not going to do it. They have other things to do. Everyone who worked on the show now has other things to do. Like,
because they worked on the good show, they got to work on another thing, and that's what they want to do. They don't want to keep doing the show. What was it that fresh off the boat lady this week, Constance Wu? That was hot in the news recently, right? She her show got picked up, and she sent out some tweets saying that she was not happy about it.
And on the one hand, it's like, okay, like you should be grateful, blah, blah, blah. And she was she said that she was, and it was just, she was reacting to something else that and I mean, I understand that because it's on the one hand, you want to be grateful. The show has basically like given you, a lot of notoriety and people love it and it's good for the community and all this stuff. But at the same time, like there are other things going on in the world, like other projects that people are also looking forward to, having to cancel a vacation because your other vacation ran long, and it sounds like a good position to be in. But, when you agree to do these projects and you agree as an artist to take on this work, sometimes you just really love it and you're really looking forward to it. And then you can't do it. It's taken away from you, not because you weren't good enough or because, someone said no, but it's because like this other dream of yours is still happening and you don't want to be ungrateful, but it's just like you think you can do it all and you can't, You know, all the amount of money, all the amount of fame, like you still can't do it all. You can't.
It's the business. They're gonna get you.
Business. It sucks, and I feel bad that she doesn't get to do the things she really loves. But on the other hand, it's just plenty of people would obviously kill to be in your position, and you know, you can't just outwardly hate it. You know.
It's complicated, but yeah, you can see, you know, both sides of it. And I think she did a good job of like backtracking her like,
of cleaning up her mess.
Yeah. I'm sure she had a good PR people working overtime.
Yeah. And I also just, if you just think about like what was going through her head, like I don't think that she was like, oh, my show got picked up for another season, I'm going to tell the world fuck. Like just, I mean, she had to have known that people were going to make that connection if that's what she intended for it to be. But I think that she was probably just more upset about the other thing happening that, I don't know, I don't think she thought that people would make that connection of like, oh, you must be really pissed that your very successful show is going through. But I don't know. I don't think that's where her head was at. And I mean,
pissed because something else, right? Because you couldn't do the movie. Yeah, it's like
when you're pissed at somebody, but you like snap at the person you love because it's just because you can.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, sometimes it happens. What are you gonna do? It's the business, say.
It certainly is.
So speaking of the business, you work in the business. So how long have you been doing that? That's pretty neat.
I've been working in TV since like officially like 2012.
Okay, all right. So what was your first gig then?
I worked as I started out as an intern. I worked as a set intern for an Adult Swim pilot. And then a couple months later, I got hired as a writer's PA on a little show called Burn Notice.
Burn Notice.
That was in, yeah, it was at six, or it was starting at sixth season, or it was in midway through its sixth season. And one of the writers, actually a writer, he's very funny on Twitter, Aaron Fullerton, he was I think I'm trying to remember this correctly. He was the script coordinator, and then he got staffed on a show, and so the writer's PA that was on it took his job, and then so mid-season they were looking for a writer's PA, which is where I came in.
Nice. You just slipped right in there.
Yeah, well, it was like a friend. I was G-chatting with a friend, and then she overheard someone on a show she was working on talk about how the Burn Notice needed an assistant, and it was just like I happened to be in the right place at the right time and had my resume handy to send in immediately.
Touching.
And then I got it, and it was great. it was a great foot in the door, and it was a fun room.
A fun room. So tell me about it, because I always hear about different writers' rooms and what they're like, and I've never been in one or seen anything like that. So what would it be like? Do you have any fun lunch games? What was the lunch situation?
I mean, the lunch situation was mostly me fetching it for everybody. Like that was my job. I stocked the fridge. I made coffee. I brought people their lunches. I took lunch orders. You know, I signed for packages. I did like all the housework basically, which seemed fitting considering the entire room was men. It was all. I think there was one woman writer, Bridget Tyler, who's very talented and very nice, but she was the only other woman aside from me, and it men together, working together, long hours in a writer's room where everything is a safe space. You can really just say anything, and it gets intense. It was never like it was never uncomfortable, and it was never bad, but it's a little like Lord of the Flies, you know, when a bunch of dudes get like hopped up on their own ideas and the sound of their own voices, and it just, you know, it's fun, but sometimes it gets a little intense.
Well, that's like, there needs to be sort of maybe more of a balance, which I'm not sure if that is happening, but maybe it's happening more on more shows, that there's more of a balance, where maybe before it was like 90-10 or worse. It's maybe, you know, hopefully better, maybe 80-20 now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the white men complain about how there are no jobs for them, but there's always jobs for them. Like, just because it's less hard now doesn't mean it's still easier than it is for everyone else. So, it's like a little taste of resistance, and all of a sudden everyone's losing their minds. It's like, yeah, okay, welcome to the party. We've all been dealing with this forever.
But that kind of shows that it's working, right? Or like, the change is slowly seeping into the system. But, with every thing that happens, it moves the needle a little bit forward, and I think that's good. It's good to see for the business, and hopefully the business keeps changing and getting better, because it seems like in the last, like, for sure, a couple years they've been trying to take like big steps forward, where it's like a lot of things are happening simultaneously to start changing things up. With like the writers strike, they're dropping their managers, and all this other stuff. There's like people big name actors saying that they want more people of color hired, and putting it in their contracts and stuff, or like making sure that co-stars are paid the same amounts and stuff, and all that stuff. It slowly adds up to where hopefully it's better.
And it's like, can you imagine, like, you have to put in writing that you're going to treat people equally? Like, just the idea, just that whole concept that it's like people now need to make laws to just protect other humans who are exactly the same as they are. And I know that it sounds very righteous, but it's so stupid. Like, it's so dumb. And people complain like, well, people shouldn't get special treatment. It's like, it's not special treatment. It's just trying to get the playing field equal so we can all start being treated the same.
Only
it's like,
in Hollywood.
It's such a simple thing where it's like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, if you actually just treated people equally, we wouldn't need to write extra mandates and protections. Like, we wouldn't need to do that. But unfortunately, we can't have nice things because you're all trash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, well,
so now we need to make laws that make sure that you treat people nice.
Yeah, like the child actors laws, where it's like all the earnings get put into a trust, right? Because of that one kid whose parents took all the money. Like, oh yeah, well, that happened. Now you got to make a law so that other parents don't steal all the money. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. You would think that would kind of be like common sense. Like, yeah, it's your kid, but your kid has a job and your kid is working, so your kid's making money.
Your kid has made the money, not you.
Yeah. Like, make yourself their manager and take 10%, but you're not the one with the talent. So.
Exactly. That's the new way. Just take your 10%. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So, right, what do you think the internet will be like in a few years? You think we'll be
worse than this? I think it's going to be so much worse.
It'll just be nonstop yelling. You'll just open your phone in the morning and it'll just start yelling at you.
Pretty much. Like, I don't know what else. I don't know how else the internet can grow aside from just becoming worse. Like, we can connect with anyone in the world. Great. We can look up stuff in a split second. Awesome. But it's also like, the more technology advances, like, people don't even like when ads show them things like based on their searches. Do you really want more higher, better technology? Like, it's just going to get creepier. It's going to get worse. They're going to start doing more things. Like, people are like, oh, I want a chip in my eye. And it's like, yeah, okay. But you also, like, I don't know, you're hiding ads on Instagram because they're too close to what you just searched for, but you also want your phone to read your mind. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. Guy with the chip in your eye?
Yeah, or wherever they're putting it. Like, I don't know.
Those chips yet. You don't just jam it in there.
Like, how much more good can the internet do than it already does?
Yeah, I think it can only get worse. I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, like, it's only going to start doing Terminator shit after this. Like, that's where we're going.
Well, you can only hope that the next generation figures it out.
Or just makes a better internet.
Internet 2.0.
Yeah.
Kids
well, we'll
only with a Z
God.
backwards.
A kids only internet, I think, would end the world. That would be. We shouldn't have an unrestricted internet. We shouldn't. Like, there are many, many people who should never have access to an unrestricted internet, and unfortunately, a lot of them live in our country. So
yeah, we have unrestricted internet, but not everybody has that. Wouldn't it be just so simpler, you know, if some of the stuff was blocked? Be like, you don't need to know about this. We're like, okay.
yeah, like you don't need to know where to buy organs. You don't know. You don't need it. You don't. It's not necessary.
Yeah,
you know, and like,
it's out,
or
the
you don't
information's out
need
there.
to learn how to blow up a building. You don't need to know. I don't think you need to buy recipes for that on the dark web. Like, I don't think that should be allowed.
Yeah, agreed.
Call me an idealist, but I don't think that, like, that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, really, this is what we want free internet for, so you can look up this stuff. Like, this is what we need.
Yeah, some parts of it are good. Some parts of it are questionable.
I would say a lot of it's questionable.
I remember when I was up growing up on the early internet, and we found the anarchist cookbook. You ever heard that? It's like
yeah,
weird like manifesto, and it has all like stuff how to make like bombs and whatever. And we were like, oh, you can make like a tennis ball bomb. You have to like cut off a bunch of match heads and put it inside the tennis ball, and that was like a thing. We were like, oh, we could maybe do that one. We never did any of it, but yeah,
Whoa.
that stuff is out there, man. It's out there.
Jeez. Yeah, now you can just like look shit up on YouTube, and it's like, why? Why is this your channel? Like, why did you decide to make this channel on the internet?
How do you have 20,000 subscribers?
My God.
All right, listeners, quit looking up that stuff. It'll appear in your search history.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Allie, I think we have gotten to the point of the show where we ask the questions from Twitter.
Awesome.
So thank you to everyone who has sent in a question at FOTS Pod on Twitter. Don't forget to send your question to future guests to be read on the show. First question comes to us from friend of the show, Kevin, at Llama in a Tux, not actually a llama. He asks, how many light bulbs would it take to screw on a thermos lid?
How many light bulbs?
How many light bulbs would it take to screw on a thermos lid?
2, I would say. If you use the little rubbery bits, you know, but the end of the bulb, you could kind of use them like grips, maybe.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
So one bulb in each hand.
Yeah.
Push them together on the lid, and then slowly turn. You probably wouldn't be able to get it too tight.
I mean, well, it depends how strong the bulbs are.
Ooh. You wouldn't want them to smash in your hands.
No, well, yeah. See, I guess that would be, therein lies the trick.
That's why he asked the question.
Oh, well, he's a crafty one.
Well, I think the answer is 2. I think 2 is a great answer.
Yeah, 2 seems right.
2 seems right. So, Kevin, let us know if it works out with those 2 light bulbs. Make sure they're LEDs. All right, and the final question comes to us from Ethereal Spirit Maeve. I'm talking about at Maven of Honor on Twitter.
I love her.
Being, I'm not sure what realm this being is from, but the question is, big fan of Allie. That's very nice.
Well, I'm a big fan of hers.
As you should be, and as all the listeners should be. Everyone go check her out at Maven of Honor. It's such cool and hilarious, fun, mystical content.
I would say that her genre is like, it's a fantasy genre. You know, I think I've DM'd her before and just been like, you should just write text-based adventures, like as a game.
Yes.
Like I love it. All of her tweets, they make me feel so warm inside. It's her and Ted Travelstead. They're like the 2 people with they really paint a picture for you, and I enjoy them very much. And they're 2 of my favorites.
2 of the favorites. Check them out. And yeah, you got to check out Maeve. And like you said, just paints a picture so crazy. Mm-hmm. Wild fantasies. You could write a novel about every one of her tweets. It's pretty wild. All right. So the questions. First question. Okay. What was the inspiration for your mystery podcast, Deadly Manners?
Oh, well, Clue. Simple answer, Clue. I mean, there's not a whole, I mean, there is a lot you can do on an audio series, but in terms of visual storytelling, it's obviously a little more difficult. So to me, a murder mystery kind of thing felt like it would work the best. Also considering that shows like Serial and like those true crime things where it's kind of like putting together clues and weaving together a narrative every week. I was like, that feels like not the easiest, but it feels like the thing that'll be the most fruitful and probably the best thing for me as a writer to do. And it was a pretty good lesson in being concise and in really just like getting to the point of what you're describing for people, because there's people, someone always needs to be talking because you can't see anything. So something always needs to be happening. So you just have to get to it really right away. And the buildup is hard because there's only so long that you can play music for, or, while a character's walking and you play footsteps and stuff like that. And it's like, eventually you have to get back to the story.
Yeah, my murder podcast is mostly just footsteps. It's just like, the door's so far away. Like 45 seconds of footsteps. Like, I forgot my keys. 45 seconds of footsteps.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of like, and when you write it and when you record it, it obviously is very different. But I think they were like 20 to 25 minute episodes. Yeah, and so Clue was one of those things that came to mind where I said, well, this would definitely work as an audio series. And the funny part is that when me and some other writers tried, we sat in a room and we were like, okay, we want it to be kind of an homage to Clue, but we don't want it to be all that similar. We don't want to take anything from it. We just want to be loosely inspired for it. And with other writers like sitting in the room, it was hard to stray away from all the tropes, because Clue so famously has a lot of things that happen in it that were you to replicate them, people would be like, oh, that's from Clue, and not necessarily like, oh, that's just like a murder mystery thing. People would be like, no, like that's just from the movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you don't want to do that. You don't want that. You want to come up with your own stuff. But it was remarkable, like how the harder you try to stray away from an idea, like it just kind of loops back around the other way. Mm-hmm. So by straying away from one thing, like you end up pushing yourself towards like something else, and you're like, oh, that's why they made this movie the way that they did, because all of these pieces come together and make sense this way. And that's just the murder mystery genre. But yeah, it was definitely it was a good time, and that I was hoping that it would provide people who missed Clue, or not really anyone who's looking for a remake, but something who wanted something funny in the same vein. That was what I was hoping to provide.
Very cool. So everyone can go check out that podcast, Deadly Manners.
Deadly Manners, yeah.
Wherever premium podcasts are found.
Yeah, it had. It was narrated by LeVar Burton, and it starred Kristen Bell and RuPaul and Dennis O'Hare. And Anna Klumsky and Tim Simons and various other very talented actors and voiceover people.
Anna Klumsky, my girl herself.
Hell yeah. She plays a character called Nancy, and she does like the best little voice that you could do in the 50s. Like she has one of those voices that she does, and because we were just like, look, we don't really have any direction for you. Like you take this character and you make it into what you think or you feel she is, and that was like the voice that came out of her. We were like, perfect.
That's cool.
That is just perfect.
That's cool when actors can do that, or voice actors, right?
It's cool when people are just really good at their jobs.
Check her out in My Girl if you haven't seen it.
Or Veep.
Or Veep, more recently.
Oh, God, yeah.
And also on the podcast, Deadly Manners. Did we mention?
Yeah, we did, but we can mention it again for sure.
All right, so we got a couple more questions from the delightful Maeve, and the next question is, what is the best thing about writing for TV?
Oh, man. The best thing for me is probably because I used to be a creative writing major, and I think not having to do all the fluff is my favorite part. Like being able to just write on a page, like this is what you're seeing, and this is what these people are saying next, and not having to butter it up with flowery language or try to be, overly clever in narration and stuff like that, which was what I always felt like in fiction was a talent I just didn't have. Like, I don't know. I always felt like me trying to write flowery language is like, I opened a thesaurus and I'm just using all the nice, cool sounding words I can find. Like, it never flowed out of me naturally the way that it does with other writers that I know, like two of my very good friends. One of them is on Twitter, Amy Silverberg. She's a comedian. We went to grad school together, but she's a very talented fiction writer. And she just comes up with this language and these stories, and you just read it like it's like it makes my eyes tear. I'm just like, that's so beautifully written. Like, how do you just get those sentences to come out of you like that? And then meanwhile, I'm over there, like, page 42 of a script, like, he leaves the room. He comes back to the room with a knife in his hand, and then dialogue. Like, that's what I like. That's what works for me.
45 seconds of footsteps.
Yeah, exeunt.
Right. So I guess you were saying in like TV writing, being straight to the point, succinct, getting all of what you need to convey out is more important than in fiction writing or more flowery language style writing or prose. That's very
also, because in scripts, like you don't have time. Like every page is a minute of time, and like you only get half an hour. You get an hour, so it's like you'd have to tell your story in the time that you are allotted. So it's like you don't have time to like talk about how the sand felt beneath the feet. Like you just have time to describe what they're wearing, how old they are, and what they're saying. Like that's it. Move on to the next scene.
In a quick 45-second walk to the door.
45 seconds of footsteps, then get out. Great.
All right, great answer. And that brings us to the final question. Thanks again to all the people who send questions at FOTS Pod. Be sure to follow and send your questions to the future cast. And the final question from Maeve is least favorite ice cream flavor.
Least favorite? Well, I'm not a huge fan of ice cream, mainly because dairy, like liquid dairy, just makes me want to die forever. I have a complicated relationship with liquid dairy. However, I will say that I think that any ice cream with fruit and nuts in it is it's a no-go. Like fruits, nuts, bananas, that's all no. Like my dad, I don't know if this is a dad thing or it's just my dad, but my dad always bought the most disgusting ice cream flavors, like bananas Foster, and sorry if anyone likes it. I just like black cherry something, and gross. I don't like it. Don't put nuts and fruit in ice cream. Like put brownies and cookies and all the stuff that belongs in ice cream because it's ice cream and not fucking salad.
Great answer. Yeah, I think my dad did have an issue with buying good ice cream. He would buy Neapolitan, and no one likes the strawberry part. I mean, like, no one ate that. Why would you buy that? No one eats it. Just get a chocolate or get a vanilla.
Right? Like, that's what I never... And it's like, was the chocolate and vanilla different in the Neapolitan? Was it, like, Italian style? Like, what was it about that? Or was it just, like, a money-saving thing? Like, you don't have to buy two separate kinds of ice cream. You can just buy the one.
Yeah. But nobody, it's so weird. Anyways, I agree with you. No nuts, no like fruit pieces. Get out of here. It's not gelato.
However, I will add that although I never had an affinity for Neapolitan ice cream, Neapolitan milkshakes, which I know is basically the same thing, but the ones like from In-N-Out, those I got when I still ate sugar. Those are the ones that I got every time. You mix them all together and you put them in the cup. And you slam it in your face.
I mean, why not? When you still ate sugar, are you telling me you're sugar-free?
Yeah, I'm an annoying keto person, which I definitely don't have to talk about, but I've been on it for like a year now, and I just had a sugar problem. It runs in my family. We have a bad, bad addiction to sugar. And it got to the point where I was eating so much candy that I was like, I think I'm just going to die. Like, I might actually just die. And my sugar was really high. And I just decided before my 30th birthday last year, I was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to try it and see what happens. And it worked. It worked for me. I basically stopped my addiction to sugar by stopping eating sugar.
Wow.
And it doesn't work for everybody. It's not like a simple answer. Like, it was a lot of hard work, and it still is occasionally, but I'm much happier, and it's a system that worked for me. And so if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, try something else that makes you happy. But I'm not, I talk about it, and I think it when something works for you and it makes you feel so good, like, your natural inclination is to share it with people, is to be like, oh, like, you were looking for a way to do this. Well, like, I lost 35 pounds just by doing this. And it always sounds easy when someone tells it to you, and the work itself isn't easy, but it becomes easier, obviously, as it goes on. And now I feel like I have what I wanted was control, and now I feel like I have control over the things that I eat and put into my body. And I'll still put garbage in there. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I cheat a lot more because I'm not actively trying to lose weight. I'm just sort of maintaining. But now I'm like, okay, now I'm in the fun stage where I can eat ramen, or I can eat, and I can have a milkshake because I haven't been having them every day leading up to this.
That's great.
And that's always the part that I wanted to be at. And so now I'm here, and I feel better.
So good. Yeah. And like you're saying, if it works for you, do it. Yeah. That's what you got to do. Yeah. I'm a big fan of sugar, and it was like I did this detox thing. It was like 12 days, but it was pretty tough little 12 days to not do it. But then once it ends, do I boomerang back and start eating like 5 cookies every night?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like, it comes back. The urge, like, once you stop eating sugar and you kind of lose your inclination for it, and then you start eating it again, it's almost instant. Like, it's like receptors light up in your brain. And I think they did a study where they had given mice cocaine and they'd given mice sugar. And after a while, 94% of the mice would choose the sugar over the cocaine. And it's like, man, that should probably tell you something about, like, how powerful sugar can be over your brain. But it's like casino lights light up as soon, and I can feel it in my body where I don't want it as much as I used to, and it doesn't feel as rewarding. Like, the thing I will say about keto is that it really took the joy out of junk food. Like, when they tell you stop wanting sugar after you stop eating, like, they're not really kidding. Like, you really don't. And so the idea of snacking becomes like, well, I don't really want to do that. Like, I don't want to just mindlessly eat. And it really changes the way that you think, and it rewires your brain a little bit. But, every so often you cave, and then you give in, and you feel yourself almost snapping back right where you were. And it's kind of scary, especially if you're someone like me that's like, I never want to get to that point again where, like, I'm sleeping till noon just because my blood is sludge from sugar,
Yeah. All right. So least favorite ice cream flavor was kinds with fruit. Short answer to your question. So, Allie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was so much fun. Great talking to you. All those days ago, I was so excited when you followed me. I was like, oh, that's like a real OG Twitter person. I've seen that handle around. Yeah, I was very excited. And you got great tweets, so everyone should be following at Aligarchy. And again, congrats on the handle and the brand.
Well, thank you.
And thanks again for being on the podcast. And now I will play that sweet, sweet theme, and we can say our goodbyes.
Yeah.
So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, Steven.
And I'll see you online. Twitter.
All right. See you there, man.
Twitter.com/Aligarchy.
Your main site.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Allie. Do follow at Aligarchy on Twitter and other social media for more fun just like that. I follow at FOTS Pod on Twitter, and I recommend it to all my listeners. Now with more tweets! My account, you ask? Oh, why, it's at Skinner Steven, of course. You weren't following? And if you want more friends of the show, and who wouldn't, head over to www.stephenwskinner.com for all the old episodes, or check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. Thanks to Ruby Coast for the music, thanks to Kyle I. Davidson for the theme, and thank you so much for listening. Send me a message. I am Stephen W. Skinner, wishing you a great one.